for coming tonight. I want to share a little bit about what we do, a little bit about how we do what we do, answer any questions that you have. My heart and my passion, for those of you that are not familiar with my work, I was a high school teacher and a college professor for 23 years. So my background is in health sciences. So exercise science, physiology, health and human performance, biology, chemistry, that's where my background is. And so as a teacher and as a professor, I taught the health sciences all the way through from graduate level to, people's first introduction to organic chemistry. And so in 2008, I found myself in a very, very hard position. And that was, I was almost 300 pounds and on 5 medications: high blood pressure, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, prilosec, hypothyroidism, and a mild antidepressant. Most of the men and the women in my family are obese, by the way. Most of the men and women in my family are type 2 insulin-dependent diabetics. And unfortunately, most of the men and women in my family die young. And so in 2008, I'm searching for answers. I'd already been on a lot of different programs before. I knew the body backwards and forwards. I've taught the body. I studied the body. I know how to look for certain things in the body from a physiological perspective and from a physical perspective. But there was a lot of things that were missing. And not because, if you saw a picture of me, some of y'all may have seen the videos and saw pictures of me prior to my kids call my Nutty Professor days. And so anybody seen the Nutty, you got to be old enough to know the Nutty Professor. So they called me the Nutty Professor, the white version of the Nutty Professor. But if you saw me before that, it'd be hard to trace back what I'm about to tell you. Because again, I come from a long list of people that are obese and unhealthy. Long list of disease, chronic illness and disease in my family. And so in 2008, I'm standing in front of my doctor to do my yearly checkup, and he tells me, Coach, they call me Coach, you're gaining weight again. And I knew that already because I looked into myself in the mirror. You know, have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror and realized that that's not the real you? And you see something that you used to be, but you really don't know if you can get that back again. Well, that was me. So in 2008, I'm standing in front of my physician, who's a friend of mine, and he's telling me, you got to lose some weight because all your reference ranges are changing again. Your clinical reference ranges are changing. Your blood pressure's out of control. You've got high cholesterol. You don't sleep well. You don't wake up rested. All of your other numbers are changing in the wrong direction. And I had already known that. But what you don't know is my story is not that easy, because I had already been on every weight loss program in America. Okay? Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Nutrisystem, Atkins, juicing, pills, powders, potions, lotions, P90X, CrossFit, muscle confusion, interval training, Beachbody, Body for Life. You want me to keep going? And I had lost a lot of weight, but I gained it all back with a surplus. And here's the problem. I was in my early 40s, and I realized that just because you lose weight doesn't make you healthy. Doesn't make you healthy. In fact, at our clinic in Franklin, we see a lot of skinny people with more disease processes than people who are obese. So just because you have a 3-digit number on a scale that fits what you think you should be does not necessarily make you healthy. And that's the biggest difference between getting healthy at the cellular level and just being the right number on the scale. Does that make sense? And so here I am in my doctor's office in 2008, and he's passing me the scripts. But let me just back up just a second. He said, you got to start changing your lifestyle, and you got to get healthier, you got to start losing some weight. Well, I'd already done that. So I said, Doc, what's the strategy? He said, well, you're going to have to drink more water, you're going to have to move your body around a little bit more, and you're going to have to eat more fruits and vegetables. Okay? I said, all right, cool. What's the strategy? He said, we're going to have to drink more water, move your body around, and eat more fruits and vegetables. You see, the reality is he didn't have a strategy. He didn't understand how the cell works in the body, how your body releases stored fat as food or fuel, how your body reverses chronic illness and disease based on the health profile that you're currently sitting under. And so he handed me those 5 scripts. And as I walked out, the crosswinds of hopelessness began to rise up in me again. And I realized that I wasn't one step closer to being healthy than when I went in to see him. And before I walked out, I turned around and I made this comment, and this is the comment that would forever change my life. The comment was, Doc, as I looked at those 5 scripts, having a background in chemistry and biology, having an understanding of physiology, having an understanding of how chemicals work in the body. I said, Doc, if I were you and you were me, would you take the same 5 medications that you gave me? Now, this is a friend of mine, by the way, who's treated my whole family. He's since retired. Now, I'd like to claim some of that retirement on me. But anyway, I said, Doc, would you take the same 5 medications that you gave me? And he said, well, that's not my job. That's an unfair question. I'm here to try to get you healthy. I said, wait a second. I said, just take your doctor's cap off just for 1 second. I said, if I were you and you were me, would you take the same 5 chemical reactions that you gave me? And this is what he said. He said, I can't answer that. And in my heart and in my mind, I realized he just answered that question for me. And so as I walked down the steps, I realized I was in trouble. I realized I wasn't getting any better in the allopathic healthcare system. And I realized the healthcare system had not only failed me for over a decade, but the healthcare system had failed my family and my past generations over and over and over again with the same information that my doctor, who was a friend of mine, gave to me. And so it was at that moment that I realized that the Calvary's not coming for me. And I set out with a purpose in my heart, and a health scare about 3 years later that almost took my life. I realized that if I was going to change, I had to do something different. I had to have a different strategy. I had to do something that was going to affect my cellular health. And I read a book called Cells Are the New Cure. That's the first book that changed everything I thought about health. It taught me something that I hadn't been taught, even in the medical school, even in the holistic health classes that I've taken. All the stuff that I had learned from the universities and the research that I had done didn't tell me what this one book told me. And that is how you get the cells to open up, how you get the body to uptake hydration and nutrition better, and how you get the body to release toxicities. That's the whole key. And so I began to apply some simple strategies to myself. Let me ask you, before I share that part of the story, I want to show you some exciting stuff about what we do and why we do what we do. How many of you realize that the things that you learned in the past when you were growing up, how many of you realize that some of those things that you used to believe were a truth, only to find out as you got older, it wasn't true at all? How many of you realize that happened? Okay? Let me give you a couple, okay? Just a couple. How many of you heard the expression that if you eat carrots, your eyes will be healthy? That's not true. How many of you heard the expression that if you pop your knuckles, you're going to get arthritis? That's not true. How many of you heard that if you eat something and then swim right away, you're going to get cramps and you're going to drown in the pool? How many of you heard that before? That's not true either. How many of you heard that the government is in the business of public health care? If you don't know that's not true right now, then you're either paid or played. How many of you realize and had heard that what you don't know won't hurt you? That's different. Because what you don't know will kill you. That's why you have to be informed. And I tell people every time, I speak all over the country, but I tell people all the time, condemnation without investigation will leave you in a state of ignorance. Condemnation without investigation will leave you in a state of ignorance. Okay, the Bible says it this way: out of the mouth of two or more witnesses, a thing can be established as true. And he who answers a matter before he hears it is a shame and a folly unto himself. Okay? That's the truth. So before I tell everybody, I'm not even trying to convince you that I'm right. But I am trying to get you to stop and take an honest assessment of where you're at today and what you're looking for. Because I can guarantee you this: what you are seeking is also seeking you. You'll say it one more time. What you are seeking is also seeking you. But you can't be on the fence and live a life of hope and wish and accomplish anything. Because hope and wish don't work in the real world. Okay? Hope and wish never got anybody anything. It's only what you do that matters. All right, we're on the same page? So I tell all my patients and all my clients, before you start throwing stones at me from the top of Mount Ignorance, at least investigate what I'm saying. Test and prove what I'm saying, and test and prove if you don't think it's true. So in 2008, went to my doctor. I got no results. I became hopeless again. In 2011, I had a health scare that almost took my life. And then I realized that if it was going to happen, it was going to be up to me. I had to take greater control of my destiny, my own responsibility for my own health and my family's health. So I did. And in 10 months, after following a very simple, strategic strategy, safe, simple, scientific, and sustainable is what we call it, the 4 S's. I lost over 110 pounds of fat in 10 months. Now see, if we was in a good old Baptist church here in Cleveland, y'all would have shouted me down by now. I'm going to give you another chance to jump in on a good, I know some of y'all are waiting for an amen. So I'm going to give you one more chance to get on this amen with me. But that's not the real miracle. The real miracle was I got off all 5 medications in 6 weeks. That's worthy of an amen. And that's the real miracle. And I'll tell you the reason why that's the real miracle. Because my doctor told me I'd be on 2 of those for... Let me say it one more time. Help me out here. My doctor told me I'd be on 2 of these for... And I was off all 5 of them in 6 weeks. I began to coach and teach people the same methods, the same strategies that I used to get healthy. Now we have professional athletes, we have stay-at-home moms, we got disabled veterans, we got people in their 50s, we got people in their teens, it's cradle to grave. Because health is health. Cradle to grave, health is health. And so when we begin to coach people, the practice began to grow, begin to multiply. I think my first year, I coached 125 people. All by myself, by the way. My second year, we coached almost 500. My third year, we went to almost 3,000. And it's doubled almost every year since then, and it's stabled off when 2020 hit. Something very interesting happened in 2020. But in 2018, I opened up the first fully functional, fully integrated, all-natural healthcare facility in Murfreesboro. So under one roof, I had DOs, DCs, nurse practitioners, medical doctors, chiropractors, massage therapy. We had everything under one roof. By the way, my friends and colleagues in the medical and scientific community, when I shared this idea that this could work, where you could put holistic physicians and medical doctors under the same roof and they could play in the same sandbox together, you know what they said? They said, you are, starts with a C and ends with a raised Z. Are you with me? And we proved that it could work. And we proved it did work. For a while. Until something happened. That we all got to experience together. Called COVID. Right? Some of you say it's a pandemic. Many of us believe it was a pandemic. And some of us in the scientific and medical community stood up early in the process. And we said, wait a second. Everything they're telling us from an epidemiological standpoint and a virology standpoint, nothing is making sense here. It's all about early intervention, early treatment, early care. That's how you make sure that people don't get over into those, those mortality rates. But that was obviously not the case in the media, and that was not what our government was pushing. I stood up, I spoke out. We treated over 1,000 COVID patients at the height of the pandemic. Anybody in our little clinic in Murfreesboro, and we had satellite offices around Nashville. But we treated over 1,000 patients in the height of the pandemic. Every comorbidity, every underlying health condition. You guys want to take a guess at how many patients we lost? Starts with a Z and ends with an E row. Hello? You want to check your local hospital here in Cleveland and see how they did? You want to check your local physicians' roll charts and their patient load and see how they did? You know why? Because we were prescribing non-FDA approved protocols. We were the black sheep of the family, if you will. We were prescribing and recommending ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin and nutraceutical bundles. We were prescribing all that, and we saved lots of people and their families. But we were demonized. We were cast out, kicked aside. And so, at the end of 2020, when I wrote my first book with Dr. Francis Miles, and we talked about the food wars, exposing big pharma, exposing big ag, showing how that the biggest collusion, the biggest medical and scientific fraud that has hit our lifetime happened, and we all got to experience it together. None of us were immune to it. None of us would have ever thought 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 years ago that they would use military terms and prison terms like lockdowns. None of us could have ever predicted that. But we went through it. We survived it. They tried to bankrupt us. They tried to do everything they could to destroy our company, our physicians. We had a split because, again, their licenses were on the line. And they got afraid. So they took a stand against me. And so essentially what happened was the company that I founded in 2014, and I'm giving you this backdrop to show you where we're at today. Because it's important to know who you're talking to, who you're listening to today. It's important to know what we're trying to do here in Cleveland and what we've been doing around the country with virtual clients, and virtual health, and virtual coaching. And now we're expanding into other areas of Middle Tennessee. And it's amazing what's happening. Because when people realize what the truth is and how you actually get healthy, the game changes. Okay? Like, for instance, if you could sleep better and wake up more rested every day, how would your life change? I know I'm not talking to anybody here. I'm just talking to myself. If you could have more energy throughout the day and not have brain fog and not be tired. I worked all day today. I did a show today. I did a podcast today. And then I drove 2.5 hours, and I still have the same amount of energy as when I got up. How is that possible? Something has changed from when I was the nutty professor. Something has changed that when I took a bath and laid down, the water was at my neck, and when I stood up, it was at my heels. Something has changed. You hear what I'm saying? But don't worry, because my grandmother always used to calm us down when we started to gain weight. She would always tell us that we're just big boned people. I know some of y'all come from a big boned family. But when I studied physiology, and I took cadaver anatomy, I realized something interesting about my grandma. Remember what I told you about what are the things that you used to think were true, but when you got older you realized were not true? You see, I used to believe that we came from a big boned, not boned, but big boned family. Until I studied physiology and anatomy, and cadaver anatomy showed me that I had never seen a fat skeleton. Have you ever seen a fat skeleton? Because I never have. And so we began to coach more people, and then we began to incorporate different technologies and different things that were helping people see deeper and deeper into their body and deeper into their profiles. So many clients and patients that come to us today, we're their last stop because they've been to every specialist in America, and nobody can find anything wrong with them. In fact, many of our patients tell us this. My doctor just says, we've run every blood test they can run, we've run every specialty test they can run, and there's nothing wrong with me. It must be in my... You realize how heartbreaking that is to hear? It must be in my head when you know your body better than anybody else, and you know you're hurting, you know you're in pain, you know you're not healthy. And there's a lot of people that look healthy, but I can assure you they're not healthy. Because now we have the technology to see way deep inside their body. And we can put all these systems side by side. We can see what their stresses are. We can see what their weaknesses are. I'm going to take you through one of the things that we use as data points in testing. It's called bioenergetic feedback and frequency scanning. It's also called, some people might think of it as quantum biology. Anybody got any scientists in here? Got a few scientists in here? So we're talking about now the laws of thermodynamics. We're talking about space, matter, time. We're talking about everything coming together at the same part. We're talking about frequencies of the body. We're talking about everything that has space and matter has energy. And if it has energy, then it can be measured. And if it can be measured, that means there's a bioenergetic signal that comes backwards and forwards that you can measure for yourself, just like you as a living creature and an energetic being. Okay. What we do at the clinic in Nashville and in Franklin is exactly what we're going to be doing here. We're going to be providing frequency scanning. We're going to be providing health strategies. We're going to be providing all kinds of non-pharmaceutical countermeasures to help people get off medication, to reverse chronic illness and disease, and to stay out of the 21st century killing fields. I want to help every individual with a customized plan to show you how you can be the best and highest version of yourself. You guys want to see some of that of what we do? Can see how we do it? So if you were to come into our clinic, and we're going to be doing this here as well tomorrow, we got a full day of scanning tomorrow. I think there are still some spots available. I'm not sure. You'll have to talk with Ross and Lindsay about that. Looked pretty booked to me, but I think there may be 2 or 3 spots available if you can jump in tomorrow. It's the most amazing technology.
We have 7 spots available.
7 spots available. So we've got some spots available for tomorrow. Andy and I will go. Andy is one of our partners, one of our coaches, and he's also a natural remedies expert. If you talk about a biohacker, anybody ever heard the term biohacking? Yeah. This guy's a biohacker. Okay? I'm a scientist, but he's a biohacker. Okay? So what we do, the first thing we have to do before we can make any recommendations for you is we have to know an unbiased way to measure your bioenergetic feedback. In other words, what your body is telling us. Because I don't have an opinion. I really don't. I go into it very, very just with a blank mind. And I only share with you what your body shares with me. And then we talk about strategies and countermeasures for how to reverse some of the things that you may be dealing with. It's amazing how this works together and fits together like a puzzle. Okay? Are we ready to kind of jump on? So the first thing that we do is we hook you up to a scanning machine. We used to have these big, honky physical machines with these gigantic servers. You got to put your hands and feet on and quad contact points and give us a piece of your hair, nail, and saliva, and then we spin all that together, and then we try to put this report together. Now the technology has become greater and greater. The hardware has become smaller and smaller, and the software has become more important. Does that make sense? For instance, I'll give you an example. In 1918, anybody around then? 1918, Nikola Tesla. You guys heard of Nikola Tesla? Nikola, I always tell my friends, I got a lot of physician friends and scientists and people in the business world, they drive Tesla. Any of you guys drive Tesla? I said, I don't want to hurt everybody's feelings right now. We good? No Teslas in here? Okay. I always tell them, you know that's not a real Tesla. Like, what are you talking about? It's the most advanced technology. This is the greatest car. I said, you know that's not a real Tesla. What do you mean by that? I said, because a real Tesla, you don't have to plug in. A real Tesla creates its own energy. What I mean by that is in 1918, when Nikola Tesla stood in front of the White House, and he took, you can look this up yourself, there was witness for hundreds of people witnessed him and reported on it. He stuck 2 metal rods in the ground. Y'all remember 1918? And created wireless electromagnetic frequency and energy from the earth. That was over 100 years ago. And today, we're still driving around in aluminum tube with steel tubes with so-called fossil fuels. Okay? What else? What other technology do you think has been suppressed over the last 100 years? Well, one of the things that's been suppressed is frequency scanning and frequency therapy. More and more people now are finding out about it. Many of the scientists and physicians before me risked everything, and many of them lost their lives trying to get this technology out to the public. So I'm grateful for those pioneers that went before and paid the price. Now there's enough of us out there. When I say enough of us, how many of you know what the Great Barrington Declaration was? Or is? Anybody know what that is? I was one of the first 385 that signed it. Because in 2020, there was a group of physicians and scientists and healthcare practitioners and providers that stood up and said, know what? We're not going to go with this narrative right here that you have to wait till you can't breathe, you go into the hospital, and then put somebody on a ventilator and hit them with remdesivir and all these other drugs and try to save their life. We don't believe in that. We believe in early intervention, early treatment, early care. We believe in the known nutraceutical bundles and the known pharmaceuticals that are actually helping people with viral loads in their body. Okay? I was one of the first 300 that signed that. Okay, you can look at my name on the Great Barrington Declaration. And what the Great Barrington Declaration basically says, in summary, is that we disagree with the current protocols that are in place. We believe that there's been crimes against humanity. We believe there's been a lot of terror going on, and we're standing up against this. When you signed that back in 2020, guess what happened? You created and committed professional suicide. You understand what I'm saying to you? But here's what I knew. I believed that I was called to something. And I believed that if I stood on the side of humanity and I partnered with the spiritual forces of light and did not partner against humanity just because of profit, that we would come to the forefront at some point and we would rise up. And that's exactly what's happened. When we first signed it, there was 300 of us that signed it. So when I looked to my right and I looked to my left, it was pretty scary because there wasn't many of us out there. Now, you know how many people have signed that document today? Over 1 million physicians, scientists, and providers have now signed that document. Okay? So the tide is changing. People are starting to wake up and realize. So when you come in, we put the scan on you. What the scan actually does, and I'm going to do this very, very quickly because there's 800 panels. And I don't think you want to see 800 panels. All right. So the first thing does, don't recognize this. We haven't broken any HIPAA laws here. This is my scan that I look at. 1, 2, 3s. I don't talk about much because those are what's called diminished functions. Could be the absorption rate. I do weigh in on certain panels. 4, 5, and 6 are what we look for as balanced. 7, 8, and 9 is what we call toxic and inflammatory risk in the body. From a clinical perspective, if you're ever going to know exactly what's happening in your body, if you're ever going to know how to counteract and have a countermeasure to what's really happening in your body, you're going to have to know what's causing toxic and inflammatory responses. It's the number one thing that we do in the clinic. Now, if we can take care of those, we call them high-value targets. The lower-value targets usually go away on their own, okay? So this is my side of the scan because there's tons of information on the right side. This is your side. If you're a patient or a client, this is going to be your side. This is what after optimization and after all the readings and the technology that we use. Okay? First thing that pops up is the food sensitivity. It doesn't tell me what you eat. It doesn't tell me what you like. It only tells me what doesn't like you. And so if we can avoid those toxic and inflammatory food groups, guess what happens? The body begins to heal and repair itself the way God designed it. So it goes through all your stuff, all your food sensitivities. It goes through your fruits, your dairy. Go ahead, keep going. And let me just show you real quick. Pull that down real quick. Let me just give them one example so they can know what I'm looking at. Stop right here. So this is the fruit profile. Okay. So if you look on this side right here, you've got a lot of red, greens, blues. You've got some oranges and yellows, and then you got some reds. So the 7s, 8s, and 9s are going to be your toxic and inflammatory risk factors. So for this person, this particular person, the things that are showing up on her is blackberry, grapefruit, and peach. Those are the toxic and inflammatory food groups that cause her issues. She already knows this because she's like, yeah, I try to stay away from most of those. Because you already, most of the time, know what's causing it inflammation. If you eat something, right, and then all of a sudden, 30 minutes later, you got to go sit on a screen door. I'm cleaning this up for the Cleveland people. Then you know that you probably shouldn't be eating that, okay? All right, go ahead and pull up. So grains, legumes, meats, seafoods, shows you your whole profile, nuts, seeds, spices, vegetables. Now, stop right here. This next few panels now gets into the physical side of your panels, like your blood work, and it gets into your vitals. This is very, very important to understand. The key to understanding these scans is not just knowing how to read medical and clinical data. Okay, anybody can do that has any level of training. But when you're talking about bioenergetic feedback, there's a lot of training and a lot of specifically designed for the individual that you've got to take into consideration on both sides. So I'm looking at both sides. I'm bouncing back and forth, looking at both sides. What we call negative bounce back, energetic feedback, and we're also looking where you land physically. And it's very important because I've got a list of questions that I'm hearing you, and I'm listening to where your pinch points are. I'm listening to where your touch points are. I'm listening to where you're struggling because oftentimes it'll show me exactly what the deal is. Sometimes we've got to dig a little bit deeper, okay? So for instance, this one will be your blood panels. So this is the cholesterol issues. So right here, she's really got no cholesterol issues. All right? Look at your other blood lipids. This is going to be like your albumin, your CIC, your iron concentration in your blood serum. Next one's going to be your omega-3s, omega-6s, fatty acids. This is one of the most important functions or the parts of the test. When you get to your gastrointestinal function, when you get to what's happening in your gut microbiome, what's happening, how you digest food, how your body pulls apart nutrients, puts them back into the system, is very, very critical. And oftentimes you will find out in these two sections right here alone, there's a lot of stuff going on that you got to deal with. For most people, they have a lot of gut issues, and they have what we call intestinal permeability. There's some other things that we look at, but this will tell us a whole lot about where you're at. Okay? Insulin resistance, this next panel is going to be about your, if you have any diabetic issues. You have your diabetic issues, it's going to show you where your diabetic issues are. So we'll talk to you about each one of these processes as it relates to insulin resistance, and your pancreatic cells, your beta cells, the things that really escort sugar out in the bloodstream. You get them into storage sites real quickly. There's people, like I said, like me, who was pre-diabetic. You know, if I would have had something like this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, man, he could have changed the whole way we practice, healthcare, right? This, by the way, this one little sheet that I'm showing you, this 800 panels, is a major disruption in the healthcare system. They hate, you understand, healthcare providers and professionals hate what we do. Why do they hate what we do? Because we get to the core root of why the symptoms exist. We don't just treat a symptom. Because, see, it pays to treat, not to cure. I wish I could talk to somebody tonight. It pays to treat, not to cure. The whole system is designed for disease management, to manage your disease. And there's so much power and influence when you're talking about big pharma, when you talk about research institutions, when you talk about the healthcare system. Listen, this is not a knock on our doctors and nurses. I have plenty of physician friends and nurse practitioners that are friends of mine, and people in the medical and scientific community that used to be friends of mine. Once I started speaking out against COVID and started speaking out against the SHOT program and started really talking about what mRNA is. By the way, mRNA, you've heard that technology, messenger RNA. You know that's not new, right? I was hearing about mRNA in 1990. We were talking about that in the research in 1990. So again, this is not a new technology. What they did to the world, and it seemed like it was a new technology, but it was a gene therapy that was introduced behind the guise of a vaccine. Okay? All right. Nutritional analysis. These are your amino acid profile. These would be like all your essential amino acids, your non-essential amino acids, your branched chain amino acids. Digestive acid enzyme. This one right here can probably tell me as much about your gut and microbiome as any other panel that I have. If you've been struggling with gas, painful digestion, bloating, breaking food apart, metabolizing food the right way, out of control weight gain, not being able to gain weight, I mean, it's both sides. This is one of the most important panels you'll ever see on your body. Okay? Microminerals, macrominerals, we talk about those. Now, how do you like this? Now you're in my wheelhouse. So my last 10 years of research has been in genetic and epigenetic research. So there's a couple of genetic markers that are popping up on her right here. These right here are what we call the MF markers for various reasons. Some people like to pronounce it out. I don't really go that far. But I can tell you this. This is what's called methylating markers. Okay? Is your body methylating vitamins and minerals correctly? Is it processing it into the body correctly? This is the 677T gene, and this gene right here is the 1298C, which this is a mutating gene. This is a duplicating gene. Okay? Not a big deal because about 50%, 60% of our clients pop pot on these two genetic markers. Doesn't mean anything unless you pop down to this and you understand how to read this pattern. So see all these B vitamins? She had one that's out, her EPA was out. But if all of these rest of these B vitamins were in the 1s and 2s and they were low functioning or not absorbing into the body, then that would mean she has a methylation issue. Okay, does that make sense? And by the way, we're asking questions all the way through. Hey, how you like this food? How you digesting this? Hey, how's your eyes doing? You going to the bathroom okay? You passing any blood? How's your kid? We were asking questions the whole way through because we want to put the picture as close to exactly what your body is telling us, and we don't want to guess. This is why at our clinic, get this number, okay, in your mind. We have the highest disease reversal rate of any clinic in America, and probably the world. Now, if you go into some of these other little smaller countries where holistic physicians have left their practice because they've been ran out of the country and popped up in Mexico or Tijuana or Brazil or another country, they probably got the same kind of results that we do because they use the same technology and the same treatment protocols, right? So when you think about reversing chronic illness and disease, 85% of all of our patients, all of our clients, come off their disease management medications. See, somebody's looking for it, still looking for an amen. I'm going to get to you before the end of the night. Somebody's going to shout and scream because they're going to realize they're talking about me. You're talking about my mom. You're talking about my dad. You're talking about my grandparents. You're talking about my child. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about helping people really get healthy at the cellular level. Okay? Physical functionality. This is the most, okay. You see this hydration thing right here? This is the number one critical element to keeping your body healthy at the cellular level. Did you know that 7 out of 10 disease processes, 7 out of 10 are linked to dehydration in the cell? 7 out of 10? What? Where is the medical literature? Where are people? What are we talking about here? If you can reverse 7 out of 10 chronic illnesses and disease with one panel reversal, why in the world aren't people shouting this from the rooftop? You know why? There's no money in it.
Amen.
I knew somebody. My wife's going to ask me how many amens I got tonight. I almost said I got one heart in for real. Think about this for a second. If you can get your cells to open up and help take hydration and nutrition better, that will do 2 things for your life for the rest of your life. Number 1, it will make you feel better and keep you healthier and keep you on planet Earth a lot longer. But number 2, it will get the toxicities out of your body. This is such a simple science. It's not difficult, but nobody wants to talk about it. It's in the medical literature. If you go study the medical literature, you will see the hydration phenomenon. You will see how it's linked to all of these different disease processes in the body. But nobody talks about it because, again, it pays to treat, not to cure. But we developed a product, by the way. There's a little plug right here. What we learned from a clinical standpoint is that 7 or 8 out of 10 patients that are coming in our office was clinically dehydrated and didn't even know it. We had some girls come in. Y'all, you ever heard of the Point of Grace girls? You know, I heard the singing group Point of Grace. So Kelly and Denise came to me a few years ago. Okay, they said, "Coach, we don't feel good." They look great, by the way. They're beautiful women. They're in their 50s. They're on tour buses 150 days a year. So they're incredible human beings. They said, "We don't feel good. Can you help us?" I said, "Yes." I said, "First thing we need to do is when you get the vital scan and make sure where you're at. And I want to check your hydration levels." And this is what Kelly told me. And I quote, "Well, I can guarantee you, I can't tell you what the whole scan is going to show, but I can guarantee you we won't be dehydrated." I said, "Why do you say that?" She said, "Well, we drink at least a gallon of water a day, especially when we're on tour." I said, "Well, let's just find out." You want to know what the results were? Both of them clinically dehydrated. So this myth that you can drink your way out of hydration is exactly what it is, a myth. Because what you're normally going to do if you drink that much water a day is you're going to wash the sodium and electrolytes out of your system, number 1. Number 2, your kidneys probably can't handle that much fluid. You can build up to that. Some people have built up to that. And then number 3, the good news is you will have no drama in your life. You know why? Because you'll be in the bathroom all day. You won't have time for drama. Okay? That one thing changed the whole game for them. One panel changed the whole game. So we created a product because we knew it was going to be hard for people to really get their cells to open up and to uptake their hydration and nutrition properly. We created a cellular hydration product that is the best in the world. It's clinically proven. We sent off a test, a double-blind peer-reviewed study that showed that we could take a clinically dehydrated patient and get them into a clinically hydrated state in less than 21 days. There's not another test alive that can show that. There's not another company that can say that. And there's not another physician or scientist that can even come close to that. And it wasn't anything that we did. It was the strategy we gave them. Does that make sense? And that one product alone is the best product that we've ever. It's our flagship product. Some of you guys should be doing that right now because it's all natural. It's 100% organically tested, COAs on every ingredient. It's phenomenal. Anyway, that was just a little fun of it. Okay. Bone and muscle next, bone and growth next, bone and mineral next. Your brain nerves are very, very important. So because one of the things that this shows us right here is your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Many people have struggled and they don't get healthy. You know why? Because they don't take care of their mental and emotional health. You don't have to tell me if you're stressed or have anxiety. I already know. I already know. And I ask you about it. I'm not trying to dig into your history because I don't have a history with you. But if you're dealing with a parasympathetic nervous system that is functioning at the lowest level, then that means you have a spear in your hand and you're trying to kill something, or something's trying to kill you. Okay, I'm going back to the biblical times here, where we kill stuff and drug it home and out. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you?
Amen.
And so I got another 8. That's two. I'm on a roll now. I'm on a roll. And so if you don't address that, and again, I'm not going to coach you on that. Now, I can coach you on that if there's time to build a history with you. But let me just say this to some of you out right now, because this is an important message. Whether you sign up and do a scan with us ever, whether you have any more contact with us, or I'm going to give you something that I think will help you for the rest of your life. Okay? I've coached a lot of people in my time. Do y'all sense that I know how to coach? Do y'all sense that I know how to communicate? Right? I mean, that's what if I don't do anything else, I know how to communicate with people. I know how to help people. We've got over 10,000 patients at our clinic. I didn't just do this yesterday. But here's what I know that's a common denominator for most people. Most people, when they're showing low sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, or high on one and low on other, so in other words, the homeostasis is not there, the balance isn't there. They may have had trauma in their past. They may have had guilt and shame in their past. They may have had a loss, a setback, a failure. This is what I know. I can't control that, and you can't either. But here's what you can control. You can control this process. And I'm going to give it to you right now. I don't have time to teach it to you, but I'm going to give it to you so you'll understand that this is something that you can have hope for the future. Because I believe that if you're sitting here today, you're sitting here for a purpose. You're sitting here for a reason. That means you're not here by chance. You wasn't just 1 in 10 million chances that you made it through here on planet Earth and outswim your brothers and sisters. You were here for a purpose, and you were made for a purpose. But most people will hold on, and they'll never let go of their history. And what that will do is it'll choke the life out of your future.
Amen. Amen.
If you don't learn to release your history, it will choke everything in your future out. And some of you right now, you may be healthy physically, but your body doesn't recognize its potential. Your body doesn't recognize what it can do. It's wanting to do it, but it can't get to it there because there's something holding it back. Man, I feel something in my spirit. Your body doesn't know the difference. Did you know this? Your body doesn't know the difference if you break your arm or if you break your heart. It's the same response. That's why you have to address your emotional side of this. Because if you don't, you're wasting your time and spinning your wheels. So release that history. And you need to wake up every day knowing who you are. Man, I want to coach you so bad tonight, but I just don't have time. You need to start speaking words of life to you. You are your best fan. You are your best critic. And you are your only advocate to becoming a better and higher version of who you can become. So you got to speak it into existence, though it may not be there yet. You got to have the faith to call forth the things that don't exist as if they do. You got to know that your future days, come on somebody, your future days are going to be better than your former days. And if you'll believe that, and then you'll put some action steps in place, there is no telling what you're going to become. There's no telling what your future can hold. We live in an uncertain time right now. There's so much uncertainty right now. I see more stress and anxiety in our clinic than I've ever seen in 10 years. And I'm not talking about older people. I'm talking about young, healthy people, supposedly, coming in with more stress and anxiety on them than I've ever seen. And the enemy is using that language. And he's using that frequency to defile the human genome, to defile you. This right here will let you know where you're at and where you stand and what you need to work on. And if you can take that as a blueprint, it will help you get into your future. Okay? Sorry about that, Andy. Andy's like, come on, folks. Land the plane. Land the plane, baby. All right. This next one is your cardiovascular and pulmonary system. This is your heart. So it's going to share if there's anything on this lady right here, this young lady right here. How many of you, okay, just by looking at these numbers, what I taught you so far, how many of you see some issues with her heart, or how many think she has a healthy heart? If you think she's got some real issues with her heart, raise your hand. If you think her heart is healthy, raise your hand. Got a couple? A few afraid to answer, right? Okay. She has a very healthy heart. Very, very healthy. Remember, we're looking for 8s and 9s over here. We're looking for those inflammatory risks. We're looking for blood flow and frequency in those chambers of the heart. We're looking for all the things that connect whether a person has any issue with their cardiovascular or pulmonary health or whether they're healthy. Now, I'll tell you one thing that we see. This is why this is so important. This is why you need to tell your friends and family that when you go home tonight, you ought to make it your mission to get 4 or 5 people here to the scans, because every one of us know people that are hurting. Every one of you know people that have tried to do everything, they're trying to do the right thing, but they have not had the success that they want, right? Everybody knows that there is an answer. There is a solution, but you have to know what you're looking at first, okay? You can't just shoot a bunny rabbit with a machine gun hoping you hit something. You've got to really, really know and pinpoint your targets, because they're high-value targets, okay? You know another thing we're seeing in our clinic every day that's heartbreaking? We see young, healthy people. I'm talking about young, healthy people coming in. You know what they're suffering from? When these panels come up, myocarditis, pericarditis, cardiac toxicity, pulmonary embolisms, neurological disorders. This is all post-2021. Want to put those dots together? We've never seen anything like this before. If you know somebody like that is struggling, and that is hurting, there is hope. There's things that we can do to help them get over this hurdle. Okay? And I don't want to talk about it too much because we're recording. Is this live right now, by the way? It is live? I'm going to cut it off right there. Just, if you need some help with that, if you need some more information, get with us and we'll tell you how to struggle with the strategy. Collagen index, help me in endocrine glands, that's right. Eye health, hormones, and I'm talking about, when you talk about hormones, let me tell you something. This is an incredible chart for people as they get older. Because sometimes things change from a physiological perspective. Come on, ladies, I wish I was here with me today. But you know what? Knowing what to do and how to do it, and how to treat it, is very, very important, all naturally. Because the allopathic care and healthcare system is going to do it the unnatural way. Put synthetics in your body and hormones in your body. But I'm not going to let the men off the hook here. Men have the same issues too. We just don't get the publicity that the women do. There's more sexual health issues right now in our young men, and from 30s to 50s, that you wouldn't believe how many sexual health issues are going on. And it can be reversed. It can be helped. And there's a solution to that. Okay? All right. Keep going. Immune system. This is the key to health right here, by the way, folks. This system right here is the key to health. Kidney function, liver, gallbladder function, lung function, body reproduction. This is the female, so her female stuff comes up. And males will be male stuff coming up. Skin index, thyroid function, allergies and pollens. Is this one of my Texas patients in this Tennessee? This is one of you. Okay. Bacterial disease, and fungus, and mold, and parasites. You have fungus, human toxins, heavy metals, molds, parasites. Parasites is becoming a major issue in our country right now. And there's so much great data, so much great research linking parasites to all things from cancer to type 3 diabetes to cognitive issues to all kinds of things that you wouldn't even imagine. Parasites, they're everywhere. And if they show up where we need to address it, we need to address it. Simple as that. It can be addressed easily. It's not hard. Viruses, all that kind of stuff. Okay. 800 panels we just went through in 10 minutes. Okay. Now we don't go through them that quick. We're sitting in front of them. But this is the type of scanning that's revolutionary, and it's going to change the way that we do healthcare. This is real healthcare. This is not sick care. I'm not looking for symptoms. I'm not looking to treat a problem. I'm looking to get to the core root of why the problem exists so we can help you get out of that problem. Does that make sense? And also it's preventative. I can't tell you how many things we've staved off because we caught something early. Okay, does that make sense? Now let me just make this as I need to make this as a disclaimer. I'm a doctor, but I'm not a physician. Does that make sense? I'm a PhD, I'm a scientist. Okay? But I can tell you this, we don't treat, we don't diagnose, this is just for the record here. We don't treat, we don't diagnose, and we don't cure any disease. right? I've had my run-ins with the CDC and the FDA, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't want any more run-ins with them at all. Because they're a criminal organization, they're corrupt, they're compromised, and they're not in it to help people. They're in it to continue this control over the medical and scientific and the healthcare systems in the world. Then I'll leave it at that, but we don't want to get too much trouble. You understand that this message is revolutionary, right? But I hope you understand that the risk that we take to get this information to you. There's a tremendous risk that we all, in the holistic healthcare space, we have to endure. But here's what I know. Greater is he that is in I than he that is in the world. And God has put me on a mission. And people say, Coach, what makes you tick? Why would you risk everything you got going for you to come out to Cleveland, Tennessee and help a few people, right? Because you matter. You matter to somebody. You're somebody's mom. You're somebody's brother, somebody's friend. You're somebody's son or daughter. That means something. And the enemy is trying to defile that. He's trying to defile the human genome and destroy the human family. And we've got to get back to the old school. We've got to get back to it when it was in the early 1900s and late 1800s, when the doctors would come to your house with a brown or black briefcase, and he knew everything about you and your family. And he wasn't a specialist. He was just a general practitioner. But he knew all the remedies. He knew all the natural adjunct therapies. He knew how to help your family get healthy and stay healthy. Now today, if you're lucky, you're in with a physician maybe 5 to 7 minutes. If you're lucky. Because they've got to get to the next case. That's how they're paid. And unfortunately, there's a lot of incentive to treat and not to cure. Not from the physicians, not from the healthcare providers, the nurses. I'm talking about the system that's in place. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Has this been helpful for you? Has that helped anybody tonight? No? What can I answer? What questions do you have? What can I add value to you while I'm here tonight? By the way, I'm going to be here all day tomorrow. I will be scanning all day tomorrow. Me and Andy will be. And I think there are some spots available. You should do that. Listen, less than $200. Did you hear what I said? Do you think that scan and a consultation to find out exactly what your body is doing is worth $200 to you? When we first started this, do you realize there were people charging multi-thousands of dollars to do these functional tests? They didn't cover half the panels that we covered. As the technology got better, as the scanning become more mainstream, if you want. It's not really mainstream yet, but it is going to be. In the next 10 years, you are going to hear a lot about frequencies. In fact, unfortunately, if you knew what was happening in laboratories and computers right now, it'd be very scary for some of you. Because man and machine are on a collision course to blend. You do realize that, right? And with the technology that we have right now, with CRISPR technology, anybody know anything about CRISPR technology? CRISPR technology is a gene editing software. I can take my computer and the software that I have access to, and I can literally, on a computer, we can create synthetic forms of life. Using some chromosomes and some proteins and adding the CRISPR technology to it, we can create a code. Did you hear what I just said? Do you know how crazy that is? We can bypass the normal way that life is created and create synthetic forms of life. And if you think this is already happening, it hasn't already been happening for a long time, then you really don't understand what's going on right now. Because with this transhumanism movement, and the AI and science and technology blending together in the next coming months and the coming years, it's going to get very confusing. It's going to get very challenging. This is why you've got to stay on top of your health. This is why you've got to take greater control of your life. And this is why you have to live in a state of homeostasis. And again, you've heard me mention and reference the scriptures a lot tonight. And I don't back down from it. I'm not a church. I'm not going to proselytize. I'm not going to try to convert you. But I can tell you this. Truth is true. Right? Truth is always true. Whether you believe that the scriptures are true or not, unless you can prove it different, that's why I said, if out of the mouth of 2 or more witnesses, a thing can be established as the truth. Everything that I've shared with you tonight is open source verifiable data. You can go check me out. You can go look at what I've done. You can look at my work. You can look at our clinic, and you can search everything I've told you tonight. But the most important thing that I'm going to leave you with tonight is this. God did not give you a spirit of fear. God gave you a spirit of power and of love and a sound mind. But if you don't have a sound mind, you can't love. If you don't have a sound mind, you'll never live in power. And if you don't have a sound mind, you will always live in fear. You're not to fear the future. It's coming. You're not going to stop it. What's coming, we're not going to stop. But you know what we can do? We can rise up. And we can speak out. And we can push back against the narrative. And we can say, you know what? No more. The line has been drawn. We believe in humanity, and we're going to stand with the people of the earth. And we're going to rise up together, and we're going to take care of what we can take care of. And we're going to push back, and we're going to fight the giants in the land if we have to. All right? Because some of you guys in here, I realize, are giant slayers, and you may not even know that. So if you got to go down to the creek, go down to the brook, and go down to the stream, and pick you up 5 smooth stones, and get a rag and a rock in your hand, and start slinging rocks to kill the giants in the land today, then that's what we may have to do. But we're not going to cower down, and we're not going to bow down to this corrupt medical and scientific fraud any longer, as far as I am concerned. And I hope you'll join me at some level, and I hope you'll do your part to keep yourself healthy, happy, and whole, and be everything that God's created you to be. Do you receive that tonight?
Amen.
Bless you all.